Hey everyone, it's Eric Chabot here, and I am the director of Ratio Christi at The Ohio State University and Columbus State Community College here in Columbus, Ohio. I'm outside here on a beautiful sunny day, and I just thought that I would take a little bit of time to talk about something that's really important in apologetics right now, and that is the moral argument. Now, you may be familiar with the moral argument, maybe you're not, but when it comes to the various arguments we use to explain the truthfulness of Christian theism or biblical theism, we sometimes talk about arguments from design, we talk about cosmological arguments or the resurrection of Jesus or prophecy or existential arguments or pragmatic arguments. But one thing that stands out these days is the moral argument. Now, the moral argument is something where we talk about objective morality. We discuss whether there is a thing called objective morality, meaning that there is a binding law that exists outside of ourselves, or there is a objective moral law that people adhere to on a daily basis, maybe without even knowing it. But the point is, it's not subjective, meaning that it's not based on our preference, it's not based on our personal tastes, it's not based on whether we feel it or not. It's something that exists independently of ourselves, and that's how we judge other nations as being right or wrong. If we say one culture is right and the other one's wrong, if it's also the basis of when we talk about individuals, where we might make a moral judgment and we might say, like, hey, you know, what happened to George Floyd 2 summers ago was objectively wrong. I mean, it's objectively wrong for all places, all times, for what happened to him. He shouldn't have been treated that way. Or we might say 9/11 is objectively wrong for all places, all times. It's not based on personal preference. It's not based on my subjective opinion about what happened at 9/11 or what happened to George Floyd. It's based on an objective moral law, a standard that's being violated. And of course, the question is, where does that standard come from? Does it come from society? Well, which society? And how do you judge one society as being right from the other, right? So then you have to use an objective moral law to talk about who's got the best moral conduct in whichever society has the right morality, right? You can't judge one over the other unless you appeal to objective morality. Or does it come from ourselves? Do we just make up our own morality as individuals? Well, that gets really difficult because, of course, we all know that we make different moral judgments, and of course that we tell people they're objectively right or wrong. And of course, if you say something is right and the other person says it's wrong, you have to appeal an objective moral law to know what is right or wrong. Otherwise, it's just your opinion versus their opinion, right? So these things come up on a regular basis, but the reason I bring up the moral argument is because we're at a point where there are a lot of moral debates going on, a lot of hot topic issues such as abortion, excuse me, or the transgender issue. You know, one person says that should be morally permissible for all women to have an abortion when they want to have it. They should be able to have abortion on demand. Another group, of course, says that's not right. It's morally wrong to kill an innocent human being at all times, all places. And then, of course, we have the transgender debate, as I just said, whether it's objectively right or wrong to allow someone to pick their own gender and then, or else transition into another gender. That can be very dangerous, we know, physically. We know what some of the long-term consequences of that. And of course, we have other moral topics out there, hot button moral topics. So I just want to highly advise you, if you're in apologetics or you're learning about apologetics, to really try to go deeper on the moral argument. This is an excellent book, by the way. It's called Good God, The Theistic Foundations of Morality by David Badgett and Jerry Walls. This is an excellent book. These two are some of the top writers on the topic. Another thing that you could read is called Written on the Heart here, this book. This talks about natural law, where there is a moral law embedded in society. It's just there, it's independent of us. It's not, you don't have to use the Bible to appeal to it. And remember, that's true, that when we say a moral law exists in the world around us, we don't necessarily have to open up the Bible to know that. That's something that God has planted in the world around us, and it's an intuitive thing. Some people recognize it, other people don't. Many people do recognize it, and they know when they're violating it. You know, just think about the Chris Rock thing that happened where, excuse me, Will Smith slapped him on stage a couple months ago. How the outrage was all over that. We know a moral law exists by the way we react a lot of times. We know when someone's been morally violated. We know when a moral law has been violated by the way we act and our reactions, okay? So I just think it's a really important time in our country and in general that we buckle down and learn more about the moral argument for God's existence. Of course, William Lane Craig has written about this. There's been a lot of good videos out on it, but just try to learn as much as you can about it and use that in your discussions with others. I hope you have a good day. Thanks.